What is up, guys? It is time for yet another tier list video. I'm your host, BC King, and this one, like many others, will be a very, very good one. As you guys know, I am a huge fan of The Legend of Zelda Twilight Princess. I love that game so much, and one of the biggest reasons why is that I feel, personally, that this game has the best list of dungeons in the entire Zelda franchise. I love Skyward Sword as well and Ocarina of Time, but this game just really hits hard when it comes to dungeons. So I thought we would do a tier list ranking every single dungeon in Twilight Princess. Now there's only 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, which is still more than most Zelda games. But yeah, I am hyped to talk about each one, so let's get right into it. Alright, so first up we have the first dungeon. Well, yeah, first up we have the first dungeon being the Forest Temple. This one is definitely not as good as the one from Ocarina of Time. That one's like instantly iconic. But this one is pretty solid for a first dungeon. I would say personally it's like a maybe low B, high C potentially, but I do enjoy it. The monkeys are cute. You have to help the monkeys and they help you get to the boss room. The boss is what's his name? Diababa. It's like the giant like eyeball plant looking thing. It's fine. Not my favorite boss fight in the game, but it's a fine boss fight. The dungeon itself is, pretty good for the most part. There's a couple rooms that are kinda meh, but, overall, not bad for a starter dungeon. Again, the Ocarina of Time one is definitely better. I think we can all agree on that, but, this one is a very solid, first dungeon for the game, and does, a good job of, like, you know, setting the expectations for what these dungeons will look like in the game later. So, for first one, not bad, but not my favorite. But, honestly, I might put it down here, actually. It's not bad, it's just I'm thinking about the other ones that are coming up, and a lot of them are pretty, like, a lot better than this one. So, well, you know, I'm gonna put it here. Because I do love the boomerang that you get, the Gale boomerang, whatever it's called. That's one of my favorite tools in the game, personally. I do love it, but, yeah, there's just better dungeons out there, which we'll get to. So, for right now, I'd rank TP's Forest Temple a very solid low B tier. And now we have the Goron Mines, which is the Death Mountain dungeon. This one I really enjoy. I'd say it's probably just above Forest Temple. Actually, you know what I might do? I might put this down here for right now. Again, not a bad dungeon, but comparing the Forest Temple to the other ones coming up, I gotta rank it a bit lower, but it's still a good dungeon. But anyway, the Goron Mines are amazing. I love the lava aesthetic. I love the whole, like, mine shaft aesthetic. The boss fight, I will say, is really easy. I do like Fyrus. Like, the whole, like, design of him and, like, how he became, like, it's basically the Goron Elder, or not the Elder, the Goron Patriarch, right? He touches the mirror and he becomes, this dark creature called, Fyrus. It's a fun boss fight in a way, but it's also kind of easy. The dungeon itself is actually really cool, though. I do love that mid-boss fight where you fight the giant Goron guard and you have to use the iron boots to, you know, magnetize yourself to not fall off the platform. That's kind of cool. And you get the bow here, which is cool. And you got that giant middle room where you got the, all the Bokoblins, like, shooting at you, and then you gotta use the bow to, like, snipe all of them off the platform. Such a cool, cool room there. But, yeah, I enjoy it. Again, not my favorite. It's a good dungeon. It's not like a top tier dungeon. But if I had to grade it, pretty solid B. Like, I think there are better lava themed and Goron themed dungeons out there in other games, but this one, pretty damn solid. So I'll give it a B. So this one I'm kind of struggling with. We have the Water Temple from Twilight Princess. Now, as you guys know, the Ocarina of Time Water Temple is very infamous for being one of the most frustrating dungeons in the entire series. This one's definitely not as frustrating, but for some reason, I kind of don't vibe with this one. I don't know why. I do love the center room where you have to, like, tilt the stairs to, like, go to certain parts of the dungeon. That is kind of cool, but I don't know. I'm not really feeling it. It's a bit too long for my taste. Like, I know it's like, you know, the Water Temple and they're known for being kind of long sometimes, but this is the third dungeon in the game, and, you know, the longer ones come a lot later, obviously. But this one kind of feels like it drags on a bit at times for me. I do enjoy the boss fight, though. I will say that. Because don't you fight, who do you fight here? You fight, oh god, what is it? Oh, it's the, what's its name? It's a giant eel thing with the tentacles, right? You have to, like, latch on with the hook shot. That's a fun boss fight. Not my favorite, but I do enjoy that one. But yeah, all the rooms are cool and all. Like, there's some fun, puzzles there, but this one, I don't know. I'm not really feeling it. It's a good dungeon. I would say I'd rank it lower than Forest Temple in terms of how much I enjoyed it. But again, there's not a bad dungeon in this game, in my opinion. They're all good in some ways. Just this one doesn't really, you know, hit home for me like a lot of others do. But yeah, it's a solid water temple. Again, good puzzles, good rooms, good boss fight, good music. It has good flow in some parts, but a lot of it just feels like it kind of takes a bit too long sometimes. So that's why it's gonna be like, maybe my lowest one on the list. But again, I don't hate this temple. I do like it, but I can't rank it higher than my other ones on this list. So there we go. But Water Temple, Twilight Princess, C tier. Oh man, now we are reaching peak dungeon design. We got Arbiter's Grounds. Oh man. First of all, if you guys can't tell already, easy S. I love this dungeon so much. The desert aesthetic, you got the Gibdos you gotta beat, you got the ghosts you gotta kill as well with Wolf Link, you gotta like find all of them. And then the ending where you reach the mirror chamber and you get that like story bit about Ganondorf and Midna and the Twilight Realm and whatnot. Peak stuff, dude. This dungeon is so goddamn good. Now there are some parts I don't really like. There's that one room where you have to, like, go through the quicksand, and there's, like, these, invisible spikes that kind of rise up. Not a fan of that room. And also, just moving around in general in some parts is not the best. But it's an S tier because the atmosphere is amazing. There's some great puzzles in there. Again, that ending is phenomenal. The boss fight, too. Oh, my God, the boss fight with Stalord? Bro, one of my favorite fights in the entire series. Using the spinner to whack him when he's, like, just the head. So good. Oh, man. So, yeah, it's not a perfect dungeon. There are some parts that kind of, you know, maybe aren't that great. But taken as a whole, it is still an S-tier dungeon, and I still freaking love it. It is phenomenal. So, there you go. Arbiter's Grounds is amazing, and it's an easy S-tier. Speaking of peak, we have the Snowpeak Ruins, which is basically somebody's house, right? The entire dungeon is a house that belongs to these Yeti people. Now, you wouldn't think that a house would be a good dungeon, but let me tell you, they proved everybody wrong. They made a simple design, like a house, a really, really good dungeon. So for me, it's an S, and I would say it's just above Arbiter's Grounds. They're both phenomenal in their own ways, but Snowpeak Ruins, man, just the music is good. I love all the Yeti cutscenes. You got that boss fight with Blizzetta, where like she is possessed by the mirror, and then you get that ending where her husband comes in and they embrace, and you have all the hearts popping out. Oh man, it's so good. Also, some good puzzles too. I will say though, and this might actually put it below Arbiter's Grounds in a way. Like, not entirely, but, like, in a way. I despise that one puzzle where you have to move the ice cube across the ice floor. I've always hated that puzzle. Now, granted, that is kind of reminiscent of some Pokemon puzzles, but I just did not vibe with that. I did not like that puzzle at all. The outside is cooler, where you got the Wolfos, you got the giant ice things that blow little, like, ice flamethrower-looking things at you. Oh, and the ball and chain, too. You get the ball and chain here. I love the ball and chain. And you fight that Dark Knight, I think, to get the ball and chain. Pretty damn cool stuff. So, yeah, again, like Arbiter's Grounds, there's things about it that aren't too great, but as a whole, it is still, to me, an S-tier dungeon. It has some good parts about it, really good boss fight, a great atmosphere, and again, the whole dungeon is just somebody's house. That's all this is. It's not like a giant temple or anything. It's not like a, you know, giant palace or whatever, or a castle. It is literally just the home of these two Yetis, and yet it makes for one of the best dungeons in the entire game, in my opinion. So, There we go. Snowpeak Ruins may not be like the peak dungeon in the entire series. We'll get to that one in just a bit. But this one is still an easy S tier. Now this might be a hot take. I'm not sure. I love Temple of Time from this game because it is obviously a reference to Ocarina of Time's Temple of Time when you first step in. Like, dude, when you first step in through that portal and you hear the it's so good. Like, I was having goosebumps. The dungeon is really good. However, there are certain parts about it that I don't really like. Some parts kind of drag a bit, similar to Water Temple in a way. I do love the weapon you get here, the Dominion Rod, where you can control the statues. That's a cool concept. The boss fight is good, not my favorite. I do like getting to whack that giant spider with the giant statues. That's kind of cool. The phase 2 one where you like fight the giant or the one eyeball as the eggs are like surrounding it. That's okay, I guess. Not something I really needed. But yeah, there is some good stuff here. You got the statue with the Dominion Rod. You got the room where you got the balance stuff on the scale is kind of cool. I will say this dungeon has a lot of spiders, and not in a good way. It has a lot of enemies that can be kind of annoying. So yeah, I would rank this at an A, but I know a lot of people would put it at a S tier, which again is fair. It's like maybe S minus on some days, but overall I'd rank it like a high A, like maybe A plus. But yeah, again, I love the aesthetic, I love the music, I love the throwback to Ocarina of Time's Temple of Time. Really good boss fight, some great puzzles in there, but I can't really see it being put in my upper echelon of the best dungeons. But it's still a really, really good one, and I really enjoyed it. So Temple of Time is a easy, not quite S tier, but definitely a high A, maybe A plus tier. Now what is at S tier is this next one, City in the Sky. I am pretty sure I mentioned this in various streams, maybe videos, I don't know. But this right here, ladies and gentlemen, is not only my favorite dungeon in the whole game, but it's one of my favorite dungeons in the entire series, bar none. It's like maybe number 2 behind Ancient Cistern from Skyward Sword, but this one is like S+. I love every part about this dungeon. The music, I love the, people hate the Ulkus, the little chicken people. I personally like them. The puzzles here are really, really cool. You got that mid-boss fight with the Oralfos, and then the boss fight itself. You got Argarok, my guy. Dude, that final phase, when you're climbing up, and you got the little pea shooter guys, and you have to hook to each one and then hook up and then hook over to Argarok's bag and just slash away at him. Peak stuff, bro. Amazing boss fight. Like, this dungeon just screams atmosphere. It has such a great atmosphere, a great vibe to it, great feeling. Again, great puzzles. Now, some people may argue, which is fair, some people may argue that this one is a little bit too long, similar to Water Temple and maybe Temple of Time in a way. But here's the thing, right? I am okay with a long dungeon if I enjoy around like 90-95% of the rooms, right? Which I do here. Like, I think Water Temple I didn't enjoy as much because a lot of the rooms were not that fun to just maneuver around, which is why it's like a low C tier. It's still a good dungeon, but I think the reason why I don't like it as much as this is because it's long, but a lot of the rooms aren't that great. Meanwhile, in City in the Sky, a lot of the rooms are great, and I love all of them. So, well, most of them, but there you go. So, anyway, this dungeon's fantastic. I love it to death. My favorite dungeon in the entire game. One of my favorites of all time. City in the Sky is an easy, easy S tier. So, we just talked about atmosphere, right? With City in the Sky. You want to talk about an atmosphere that matches or maybe even tops City in the Sky? Palace of Twilight, man. That music, like, listen for a minute. Hold on. Just listen. Just listen. It's so atmospheric, right? Like, I love the Twilight Realm. I always have, always will. I love the orange sky. I love the dark tone to it. And this dungeon, I will say, could have been a little bit better in terms of, like, stuff to do, because a lot of it requires you to beat these ghost Zants, and then, You have to dodge these, like, giant Zant hands to get the orb back to the start to then upgrade your Master Sword to, like, spew light and whatnot. But it's still a fantastic dungeon. I would say it is a very good, like, S-. I can't put it above the other 3 because, again, a lot of it, like, makes you do, like, very, very similar tasks and whatnot. But here's the thing, right? The boss fight is maybe what puts it in S tier alone, because that Zant boss fight, that reveal where he's like, oh, he's like a psycho pretty much, like, because throughout the whole game, they make him seem like this, like, very stern, very, like, not emotional villain. But then the mask comes off finally, and he's a psycho. Now, some people may think that that kind of undermines his character, but again, here's the thing. The reason they made his character like that is because of Ganondorf. Remember? Ganondorf gave Zant his power. And that's why he goes from, like, a psycho to a very serious character. But deep down, he's always been a psycho. And that fight is also pretty good. Like, I love it. And that ending where you get Minda, I don't want to spoil it, but Minda does something, and you know what it is. But anyway, this dungeon is great. I love it. Could it be a bit better? Yeah, but I think it's still an easy S tier compared to the other ones, and it is still a very, very good experience. And again, great atmosphere. This music alone is so good. I love the music. Good music. Anyway, S tier, moving on. And finally, we have Hyrule Castle. So, you do come here at one point in the game, right? You come here when you're in the Twilight Realm and Midna shows you what happened and whatnot, but you're on the roofs, right? But now you're, like, going through the entire castle. This one is really good, but I cannot put it in S tier because I feel like some parts of it, you know, could have been a bit better. The Dark Knight fights do feel kind of random. Like, the one outside of the final door is, I guess, fine. But yeah, the ending too, of course. You got Ganondorf, you got that whole entire cutscene. I don't want to spoil it, but it's amazing. The dungeon itself is fine. Also, when you fight King Bulbul in here and he talks for the first time, he's like, I did my deed, that's all I do, or whatever he says. And he becomes a good person after that. That was good. The other section, though, where you're trying to, ride the Warthog through the giant towers and whatnot, and through the wood fences, it was alright, I guess. The inside of the dungeon is good for the most part. I would say, personally, I prefer Ocarina of Time's Hyrule Castle to this one, because I feel like the puzzles were a bit more interesting, and it had better flow to it, I guess? Is that what I'm looking for? Flow? But it's still a great dungeon. I would say, personally, I'd probably rank this below Temple of Time. Because I think Temple of Time, the throwback to Ocarina really elevates it for me, and that ending with the boss fight. Well, again, the Ganondorf boss fight is cool, but like I'm talking like just in the dungeon itself, not like outside, like the Ganondorf one is. Like, because Ganondorf is like outside. Well, it's whatever. You guys know what I mean. Sorry, trying to not stutter here, but yeah, I love Hyrule Castle. It is great, but I cannot put it above Temple of Time or in my S tier. But it's still a really good dungeon. Not my favorite Hyrule Castle ever, but it is definitely up there. So, easy A tier. And with that, we are done. Oh, man. It just feels so good to gush about my favorite games, man. Like, you know, Twilight Princess, and then Pokemon, and then whatever else is coming up. Like, I just... See, these tier lists are what I need to do. Like... you know, just do games that I, like, have a lot of experience in and I love to death, and it makes for a good list. Because I agree with this. There are no Ds, no Fs. We got 2 Cs, 1 B, 2 A, and 4 S. So, that should tell you right there that this game has some pretty damn good dungeons. And again, it's the best overall. Some are not, you know, Water Temple and Forest Temple could be better. But, again, taken as a whole, this dungeon list is pretty damn awesome, and I love it. So, there you go. But, what did you guys think? Let me know in the comments what you guys thought and what you would change, and I'll see you guys in the next tier list video, and make sure you guys like, comment, and subscribe. Bye, everybody!